Welcome to a Seeing Them Live after show report. Today we'll delve into the music, atmosphere, fan reactions, and any unusual circumstances from a specific live music event. Everyone has a concert story. Maybe one day we'll hear yours.
I wanted to be on the Underground Garage. We were in California the very first time we toured West Coast, and all we did was listen to the Underground Garage, and I loved every band on it, and I didn't even know some of those bands. I didn't know if they're from now or they were from the 60s or 70s. I didn't know.
Even though we were calling this episode a Seeing Them Live after show report, the format is a little different. Doug and I are in the field recording brief conversations with one of the performers and some of the fans at a live music venue in Chicago called the Liars Club. In this episode, Doug and I are also closing the loop on a band we were made aware of by one of our guests, Dawn Fontaine, in Season 2, Episode 1. You remember Dawn, right, Doug?
Yep.
The episode's called Dawn Talks About the Healing Powers of Live Music. Dawn kicks off Season 2, and she shares this compelling story about how Soraia, a Philadelphia-based band, and their music saved her life, literally. In the episode, Dawn shares her story about her interaction with ZoZou Mansour, the lead singer of Soraia, and in general, Soraia's music and its impact on her. Let's give that a listen.
They put on a heck of a show. Every song was incredible. After they were done, I had good seats. I was probably about 25 rows, floor seats. It was great sound. It was at the Palace Theater, a small venue in Albany, New York. And at the end of their show, Zuzu Mansour, their singer, had said, come by the merch tables. The band will be there and we'll talk and sign autographs and stuff. And I don't usually do that kind of stuff at a show. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go check it out. I might want to buy an album or something. So I went over and first I met Travis Smith, their bass player, and Brianna Sig, the drummer, and chatted with them briefly and got a picture and was looking at the merch. And then I walked over and saw my friend Gregory and I was like, all right, well, that was cool. Let's go back to our seats. And he's like, oh, well, don't you want to talk to the singer? She's right over there. I didn't see her. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go talk to Zuzu. It'd be really cool to meet her as well. And she was really cool. I can't remember exactly the conversation. It was probably something like, hey, great show. I enjoyed your music. She was very down to earth, very nice. I got a picture with her. And then went to my seat and I watched Joan Jett absolutely just tear the roof off the place. She did a 90-minute set. The last 20 to 30 minutes, she did acoustic music because she had just released that album Change Up where she did a bunch of her songs acoustically. It was her first time doing it live acoustically. Every single song she did was incredible. She was great. She was everything I had ever wanted to see. But what was funny was after that show, all I found myself thinking about was Soraia. Like, wow, they were so good. I really want to see them again.
So towards the end of that episode, Doug and I plant the seed of going to see Soraia at the Liars Club in Chicago in September. And we invite Dawn to come see us and set her travel distance record to Chicago. She goes and sees this band Soraia all over the East Coast. Let's give that a listen. And I was going to say, Dawn, we were looking at Soraia's website, and they are playing in Chicago on September 20th at a place called the Liars Club, which I've never been there. It looks like a really cool place, though. So I think Doug and I are going to be at that show. So if you want to add to your distance record and want to drive out to Chicago, we'd be happy to meet you there and check them out. And a few months later, in May of 2024, so we're going from March to May, Doug and I have the pleasure of interviewing Zuzu, and we talked about Dawn's episode and its impact on Zuzu and the band. So let's give that clip a listen.
I don't ever get pompous about the gift of songwriting either. I cultivated it and I did the hard work, but I know that that's, to me, a God-given thing. And I'm a strong believer in higher power, and whatever your religion, that doesn't apply. It's really just that I know, my job is to do what I do, share my experience and share my hope Like, some of us have been given a second chance at life. You know what I mean? And that's what I have to share. Like, I can't make up that experience, and I can't not be the underdog. That's who I am. Like, and I think that speaks to people. There was a guy who came to our show and said, I had my suit laid out and was ready to commit suicide, all my notes written, and your song Jolene saved my life. And I think that's the first time I ever heard that. And I realized the power of that. It's not for me. Like, I think what I realize when I hear that is, first of all, we love Dawn. I mean, we love Dawn anyway. Dawn is like us. So that's why we love her, not because we saved her life or our music saved her life. It's because she's a fan and she gives to us as much as we give to her. Like, literally, like, there's no way we would keep doing it otherwise. We didn't hear that story. It wouldn't help us on dark days when we want to quit or we can't pay for my cat to eat. I don't care if I eat. My cat doesn't eat. There's a problem in the world. You know, it gets us through stuff too. And we're just darker people. We've been through stuff. We've been through a lot of stuff. And I think that resonates with people who have been through stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't resonate with people who aren't ready to look at that.
So like Dawn, we also told Zuzu that we'll be seeing Soraia at the Liars Club in September. And we also recommended a good hot dog place called the Wiener Circle. It turns out her favorite grilled food is the hot dog. So this brings us up to September 20th, 2024 at the Soraia show at the Liars Club when we recorded these in the field conversations for this episode. Doug and I will jump in before and after our conversations with our comments and opinions. So, Doug, why don't you set that up?
This first clip, we're on our way to the Liars Club. It was a rather long drive, so we had a lot of time on our hands before we got there. And so I thought, why don't I just capture a few of our thoughts on the way there, what we're expecting to see and that kind of thing. So let's have a listen. Well, it's a warm September night. We're heading into Chicago to the Liars Club. We're going to see Soraia. In episode 7 of season 2, we interviewed Zuzu Mansour, the lead singer of Soraia. And we're really looking forward to seeing her tonight. Got our host, Charles, here. Charles, what are you looking forward to seeing tonight?
Well, I'd like to actually see all of these songs played live. You know, in prepping for the interview, I had listened to just about all of their music and watched some live recordings. And so excited to see them play and meet the band possibly and buy a Soraia concert shirt. I've got my eye on the purple one. It's got Soraia on the front, like this kind of flower looking thing. And on the back, all the tour dates, which includes, of course, the Liars Club, September 20th show that we're going to tonight. And maybe the other band, Tara Who?
Tara Who?
Tara Who? Question mark? They literally didn't use the question mark in the name of the band. So
that's probably why they named it that way.
They seem pretty interesting as well. The main act, which Doug and I think it's his main act, DOA, they're an older punk band, I think from the late 90s. They were saying on the Liars Club website, and they're playing Riot Fest this weekend in Chicago in Douglas Park. But one of the guys in the band was injured, apparently, and they're not going to be able to play tonight. So the person who's injured is resting up so that they can then perform at the Riot Fest this weekend. So they said they might replace them with a surprise band, or maybe it's just going to be Soraia and Tara Who playing longer sets, starting a little later maybe. So we're not sure on that part of it, but that's kind of what makes it exciting, live music. You just never know what's going to happen.
We're hoping that we'll get there early enough that maybe we can do some ad hoc interviews with a few fans, maybe even get Zuzu to say a few comments. I'm looking forward to seeing them perform live. And as a musician myself, I'm very curious how they do the setup and that kind of thing. And I'll be looking at Travis to see what kind of bass he plays and what kind of amp he's got and that kind of thing. So I'm very excited about it.
Being a musician, Doug, you know about teardown too. Maybe they'll put us to work tonight, and we'll help them tear down and load up the van or whatever they have their equipment in tonight. So we'll see.
Yeah, one of the things I want to see is if they have people for that, because God knows my band does not have people to do that. Yeah, we have to do it ourselves. All right, so we'll check in later when we get there, and should be fun.
Yeah, so Doug and I pull up to the Liars Club, and miraculously, it's in Chicago, in the city, but at this particular spot in the city, there was plenty of parking. We pulled up right in front of the place, practically.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise.
But hey, I'll take it. And we got there a little early because we had heard information from Liars Club and a guy who knows somebody who works there that Soraia was scheduled to go on at 8:30. So we wanted to get there, maybe an hour or so before the show, because there were 3 bands, as we'd mentioned, playing: Soraia, Tara Who. So we walked up to the place. We looked at the somewhat rusty metal sign that says the Liars Club over the door, and we chatted with the bouncer. His name was June.
Yeah, June.
And he told us about a paper handwritten sign that was taped to the door.
Well, he wanted everybody that got there who had paid for tickets ahead of time to be aware that the main band, DOA, was not going to be performing that night. And then I noticed that they substituted a performer that I knew, Ricky Liontones, who plays a lot in the Chicago area. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I've heard him before. So I thought that would be kind of fun. Yeah, June was a great guy. He was really nice. So he just, made us aware that the main act had been substituted. But for us, it didn't matter because we came there to see Soraia anyway. So we went on in, and Chuck, maybe you can tell us about the impressions you got getting inside.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, and this will become a more interesting point in a minute, Soraia was going to come on at 8:30. We'd maybe take in the second band, Tara Who, and head out. But they had to rearrange the schedule. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, when you walk in the place, it has like a neighborhood feel to it. It has knickknacks everywhere. Somebody, probably the owner or someone there, has a definite affinity for the band Kiss, because there's lots of Kiss figurines and things scattered about. And so Doug and I sat down at the bar, and there were a few people sitting at the bar, and the bartender, Scotty, he started chatting with us, very friendly guy, and he bought Doug and I a couple of drinks too. So that was nice.
Several throughout the evening.
Yeah.
We had to pace ourselves.
Yeah, and we did. All right.
Scotty was a great guy. I bet he has a lot of stories. We may circle back and try to, interview him sometime, because he seemed to know everybody in the bar, the patrons there, even people that came from out of town. One of the people we interviewed was actually from El Paso, Texas.
Yeah, he had the lowdown of like everybody, which was, like you said, this person's from out of town. How does he know all this information? But he did. And so as we were sitting there, kind of like out of the corner of our eye to our backs and to our right, we noticed Zuzu and the rest of the band, Travis Smith and Brianna Sig, were sitting at a table. So Doug and I went over and introduced ourselves, because, this has been cooking since March, since Dawn turned us on to this band.
And we interviewed Zuzu, so...
Wow, we finally get to meet her, which was awesome. So then, Doug, you asked Zuzu, right, if she would be willing to do a brief interview before they went on.
Yeah, she was very cordial to us and happy to sit down and talk to us. And at the time, I had seen Steven Van Zandt's documentary, Disciple, in which she is interviewed in that documentary. And so I asked her about that, and I asked her about Little Steven's Garage, a show that he has on XM Radio, a show that she's a big fan of. So let's have a listen to what she said. Okay, so we made it to Liars Club, and we actually have Zuzu Mansour right here. Zuzu, we're looking forward to seeing you tonight. What can we expect in your show tonight?
I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. We've been on the road long enough that we're nice and greased up and ready to just have a good time. We always have a great time at Liars Club. It's one of our favorite places to play of all time. So it's always a good show here.
And so after this, you're going on to Indianapolis, I guess? Right?
Yeah, Indie Punk Rock Night is on Saturday nights, and we've done that. This is going to be our 3rd year doing that, so that's always a good time, too. That's another great place to play.
And how many bands play at that event?
That's 3. 3.
Oh, okay.
The most lineups we've done so far are 2 or 3 bands. We usually go with a touring act called the Idiot Kids out of Detroit, but they had something this weekend too, so we split up, and then we're going to rejoin each other in Kentucky. So
nice. Also, I want to say I saw you in Steven Van Zandt's documentary,
Yeah.
and you look really fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Good Cooper's. I mean, at the time, it was a nice long interview. And it's funny because, they took the part where I basically was being genuine. Like, I wanted to be on the Underground Garage. We were in California the very first time we toured West Coast, and all we did was listen to the Underground Garage, and I loved every band on it. And I didn't even know some of those bands. I didn't know if they're from now or they were from like the 60s or 70s. I didn't know. There was a band called The Pretty Things that I was in love with, and I found out they were not current, even though I thought they were. Just had a good mix on there, it all fits.
Do you think when you listened to it in those early days that some of that music influenced your writing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like the Ronettes, Joan Jett, the Runaways, which she plays all of them. But I mean, there's a lot of bands I found later as I started writing songs and as I started playing in bands that I had never heard before. A lot from Travis, my co-writer and bass player in Soraia. A lot of garage rock. He turned me on to the Nuggets albums by Lenny Kaye that I songs I'd never heard that I still can't find anymore. Like there's one song called Evil Woman. It was one of my favorite songs ever of a garage rock compilation. I still don't know where else to find that song. I don't even remember who did it. But he turned me on to Sonics then when I found a station that kind of turned me on to more of that kind of stuff, I was really excited. But yeah, I love all that stuff. I mean, I'll be honest, like the early 2000s garage rock really made me come to life and want to like do that kind of music in a band. The Hives and the White Stripes. And the White Stripes helped me find blues. Like they took me back to like a Spoonful, which is one of my favorite songs. Yeah, I mean like the garage rock explosion of the early 2000s is what made me want to do what I do.
All right, well, thanks. We're looking forward to seeing you tonight. It should be really exciting.
Great to meet.
I was just really, I guess not surprised because we'd interviewed her for the podcast and she was very generous with her time as she was again here. I'm sure she had a lot of things running through her head, but she gave us a brief interview at the bar, which I thought was great. And I was glad to hear that I'm not the only one who doesn't know a lot of the songs they play on Little Steven's Underground Garage on Sirius XM. Not that I don't like listening to it, but it's just those are really deep cuts and they have some really interesting music they play on there. Doug, is that when she told us about the lineup change then, the order of the bands?
Yeah. So, while we're with her, we're sitting at the bar talking with her and waiting. She's talking with, I don't know if it was Scotty or like the manager there or something about who's going to go on first and what the order is. And I actually had been texting with her through Instagram. And at the time she said, oh, we're probably going to go on first. And then it'll be Tara Who and then whoever the replacement act was for DOA or if she thought it was DOA at the time. So they're having a conversation and then it shakes out that, oh, okay, so first Ricky Liontone's going to go on and then Tara Who, and then we're going to go on last. And so I look at Charles and we're like, man, we're going to be here for a long evening. Something we did not anticipate.
But it worked, at the time, Doug, it wasn't too bad because they're like, well, Ricky Liontones would go on at, when Soraia was supposed to go on 8:30, but I don't even think he got there till about 9, maybe. That's out his merch, and he starts setting up, and I'm looking at the time, and it's like I don't know. I think he went on at like 10:30, Doug, maybe.
I'm sure there was a lot of adjustments had to be made since they had to adjust around the main act not getting there, and then they had to probably contact Ricky at the last minute and see if he could do it even. Speaking of merch, why don't you tell everybody about how excited you were to get a Soraia t-shirt?
Yeah, I've bought several things off their website, vinyl actually, but never a t-shirt. So yeah, I bought this Soraia. It's a black, your typical black concert shirt. And it has a Soraia like logo, like a flower, purple on the front. And then on the back, it has the tour dates and stuff, which was kind of cool. So yeah, I got to pick that up. And Doug, what did you buy? You bought didn't Brianna make a comic book or something, a zine?
Yeah, I was very excited I got one of their CDs. I got the reissue of Shed Your Skin. And then Brianna is also an artist, a visual artist. She does comic type artwork, and then she also does paintings too. I found out through her Instagram account. But she did this sort of comic strip put into a little booklet of this band that was made up of a Frankenstein, a werewolf, and a vampire. I just thought it was very clever. It sort of reminded me of the Addams Family. A lot of people don't know the Addams Family actually started as a comic strip before it ended up on TV as a television series. So I really enjoyed getting that because it was kind of unique. And of course, they autographed everything for us. I could probably put a picture of the little comic booklet on our website in the artifact section. So I was able to talk to Travis Smith, the bass player, about the gear that he uses because I wanted to compare it to, what I use. So we had a good time talking about that. It was a good setup, a good chance to talk to the band when things were quiet, when there weren't a lot of people around.
So after Ricky Liontones, we had intel from Scotty, who had mentioned that we should interview some of the fans there. And so in between sets of Ricky Liontones and the band Terra Who, which is Terra, like we've talked about, WHO ? We started asking fans who they were there to see at the Liars Club. And the first person we interviewed was Shelly Van and her friend. Let's give that a listen.
So we're here at the Liars Club with
Shelly Van
Shelly
and Vicky.
Okay, well, great to be on seeing them live.
Well, who are you here to see? Because there's 3 bands. So who are you looking forward to the most?
So I'm mostly here to see Terra Who. I know the bass player from working together in a metaverse platform called Decentraland, where I own a music venue.
Ooh.
And we've been working together for 3 years on a weekly basis, never met in real life. This stop was not on their tour, and it was added at the last minute, so here I am. Very exciting.
That sounds really interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So it's a 3D platform. It's decentralized, that's a whole different conversation. But it's a music venue to support independent musicians on their journey in Web3. And during COVID, where live music was, unaccessible, people were turning to their computers. Twitch streams were taking off like crazy. But in this world, there's the added element of the 3D experience where you have a representation of yourself as an avatar, just like a video game. You set up your character. And so people from all over the globe are now coming to these virtual concerts to enjoy music from their couch, from their bed. And it's been an incredibly awesome journey. I've onboarded hundreds of musicians from all over the globe and to have these first performances. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, Charles, I mean, it's a shame that, the sound check cut things short, but Shelly's concept of a 3D metaverse music venue was fascinating, so much so that we got her contact information, and she's going to actually be on one of our episodes coming up, right?
Yeah, she's coming up as a guest. And the one part of that interview that you don't hear us talking about, because they were, like Doug said, doing the sound check, is she also develops with the band in her virtual venue, True Band Room in the metaverse, virtual concert ticket stubs, which she issues to fans as these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens, which I know were very popular a year or 2 ago. But I was really interested in that. And we talk about that in the interview because I had received an NFT ticket stub when I went to see Marcus King this year at the Salt Shed. I didn't even know what it was. Live Nation sent this thing to me, and I still have it on my phone because I'm afraid to close out of it because I don't know if I'll ever find it or get it back. So we talked about that and, how she was there to see the band Terra Who, in particular, the bass player who does virtual shows in that True Band Room in the metaverse with Shelly's company. So, I mean, what are the odds of that? That was a really interesting conversation, and you can hear more of it in an upcoming episode. I just wanted to comment on the band Terra Who and the lead singer who also plays guitar, and she did some drum work, which was very interesting. So Tara Carpenter is the leader of the band, and I don't know, about halfway through the show, they're a punk band. About halfway through their set, she has this like bass drum, but it's turned 90 degrees from how you would see it in a drum kit.
Yeah, I think actually it's more kind of like a kettle drum is what I think they call it, or a big tom drum.
Yeah, it sits on these 4 legs and it was in front of her. And then she puts her guitar to the side and she takes out these are not drumsticks. They almost look like 2x4s, sort of. They weren't like, drum mallets or drumsticks. They were these large pieces of wood that were, elongated like a drumstick. And she just started banging on that drum. It was very striking just to watch and to listen to. And she also, towards the end of the set, got up on the bass drum of the drum kit and stood up there and played like a guitar solo. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. That was pretty cool. But they were very good and they were really interesting to watch.
Yeah, this might be a good time to comment on the sound system they have there, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
The percussion comes through really well. Sometimes you couldn't hear the lyrics from the lead singers, but other than that, I thought overall the sound system was pretty good, very professional, and other fans there commented that they liked the sound system there.
Yeah, apparently that's one thing they're known for, and I think our next person who we interviewed, she comments on that, doesn't she, Doug?
I think so, yeah.
So should we give that clip a listen?
Yeah, this is Letitia. She was standing around the bar, and I think this might have been after we heard Tarahu, in between Tarahu and Soraia.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of background noise because they're playing music, and by now the crowd is really filled out. I mean, the place has got a lot more people in there than when we showed up, and it's not a very big place, so we should probably point that out. But this is one of the people that Scotty told us about. Said that she was from out of town. And at the time, there was a festival going on. What was it again?
Riot Fest.
It's not my kind of thing, but, a lot of punk bands play that. And she had come from Texas to attend that. And she said when she asked people, well, where's a good place to go after Riot Fest closed down for the night? Everybody recommended that she come to Liars Club, and then that's how we bumped into her. So let's have a listen to that clip.
What's your name?
Leticia.
Okay, and we're at Liars Club, and was there a specific band that you came to see here?
So there was no specific band, but I'm in town from El Paso, Texas, and this is the first place they recommended me to check out.
So were you in town for Riot Fest too?
I'm in town for Riot Fest. I'm going to be there only Sunday.
And what do they recommend about coming to this club?
The bartenders, the whole band, like the lining, everything.
Okay, yeah, the bartenders, it's the first time we've been here too. They're very friendly, and the whole place has a cool vibe. Like everybody's really friendly and social.
So, do you go to a lot of live music?
Yes, I do a lot of live music fest, bands, any kind of show, dive bars, whether it's a big festival or not. I always try to support, and the best thing I like about this place is their sound. It has a really good sound here. Like there's a lot of places that you go and the sound just sounds like shit, but it's very comfortable and you can hear everything.
So, of all the shows that you've seen, what was your best experience?
The best part is when it's comfortable, when you pay for the VIP and they make it to where you should be, make it a good experience. There's a lot of bands, and the older you get, you just want to make it a good experience. It's not about how much it is, it's about if you're paying that extra for the commodity, that's the best part of it.
And what was your worst experience?
When you pay for something and there's no bathrooms, the line, the parking, they promise you a certain amount and it's not happening.
I wasn't expecting, to get much out of the interviews, but I thought everybody was pretty interesting. Usually we're so generous with their time, and yeah, it was a really cool evening. Again, the timing of it all. Doug had to talk me off a ledge after Tara, who I had been up that morning since 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was now approaching 1 a.m. I think that's when Soraia finally took the stage.
Yep.
And I think by the time I pulled in the driveway at home, it was about 2:30, 2:45. So I'd been up for about 22 hours, so I was feeling a little kooky. But we met a lot of interesting people, and we finally got to see Soraia live. And Doug, I had mentioned this to you before. Watching them live, like I said, I bought some of their vinyl and such. They sounded really, really good live.
Yes.
It wasn't like I was listening to the album because it had the live aspect to it, but they were really good live. The sound was fantastic. And you have to credit the Liars Club for that as well, for their sound system, like you'd mentioned. But yeah, I was just blown away by how great they were live. And I also wanted to mention, I think more people should check them out next time they come to town. I'm on their mailing list, so I get their newsletter. And they were also saying to spread the word and to come out to their shows. They're continuing their tour, I think right up till just after Thanksgiving. It winds up on the East Coast, I believe. And, they just say that's a vital part of their ongoing success. And, spread the word, bring some friends, and yeah, check them out. They're great live.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about, seeing them live. I thought it was really interesting how just by chance we ended up interviewing two people that were entrepreneurs because, Letitia mentioned that she has a boutique in El Paso, Texas, and she was there from out of town to see a different show and ended up at the Liars Club. So yeah, it was a good time, and I hope it'll be something that we do periodically from time to time, go out in the field and collect some interviews with people on the spot and share it on the show.
Yeah, we just want to also thank our fans who listen to our podcast, and don't forget to tune into our next show where we'll have another interesting guest on talking about their live music experiences. Follow us on social media to stay updated on new episodes and live events. Thanks for joining us for this after show report. And as always, keep supporting live music.
Yeah, and Charles, remember our tagline, everyone has a concert story.
And hopefully someday we'll hear yours. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show was composed by Doug and is featured on his album, Flagstone. If you have a concert story you'd like to share on our podcast, please visit our website and click on Become a Guest in the main menu. Then fill out the form and click the Submit button. If you seem like a good fit for the show, we'll contact you via email. I guess it's time to head for the exits. We'll see you next time on Seeing Them Live.